Okay, so a lot of people, actually like of all the instructionals that I've ever filmed, people talk a lot about Captain Morgan and the Captain Morgan system, and I learned it from a lot of different people, but I put a lot of time into it, especially in competition too, and I just feel like it's a really good positional transition from Ashigarami. So real quick, let's just show Captain Morgan. So Captain Morgan is when I'm in Ashigarami and I rock up to the sitting position here. And a lot of times my partner will probably try and cross their legs here, which opens up some toe holds, or we can open this up and sit through the knee bar, or we can sit one more time through and have an inside honey hole position. The question that came up was about if it's possible to play Captain Morgan from 50-50, okay? And the thing that you have to see is that in order to get into Captain Morgan, I'm rotating around the leg, but the leg is not restricting my rotation, right? So one more time, from Captain Morgan, if you see, my hips are rotating in this direction. So I'm starting in Ashigarami and I'm rotating all the way through until I end up in honey hole, right? When we're in 50-50, if I try to do the same rotation, my partner's leg is in the way. See how that's locking my hip, right? So even if I get up here, I would not call this position Captain Morgan because my partner's leg is across my hip. Now, if I was to open him up and pass to the side, okay, now we're in a Captain Morgan type position, right? It's actually, Captain Morgan would be a little bit more like this, but in 50-50, technically, this is not a Captain Morgan, even if I get up here. And this can actually be dangerous. We can both be dangerous. We have to watch our knees here, okay? So I'm gonna show you something that I learned from Craig Jones. So shout out to Craig Jones here. But this is the way that I would rotate through, okay? So in Captain Morgan, I usually drive forward over my knee. But in this rotation, we're gonna be in 50-50, and we're gonna push our butt through, okay? So we're gonna lead with our butt, and we're gonna keep pushing our butt through our partner until we end up on the far side, and we're gonna end up with this supercharged knee bar right here, if you collect it all. And I could turn this back to honey hole, right? So one more time. Instead of driving my knee forward, I'm trying to get my butt in between my partner's legs. So probably the first thing that's gonna happen is I'm gonna have to separate my partner's legs, and then I'm gonna sit my butt through and keep rotating until I end up into the knee bar position. Or if he overturns again, I'll end up back into an inside heel hook. So I wouldn't call that Captain Morgan, but it's a pretty fancy technique and it actually ends up in the same position. But you have to understand the difference between when there's a leg across my hip, limiting my movement, versus no.